Okay, today we're going to take a look at adjusting the valves on an 18 horse overhead valve Briggs. So there's your Briggs and Stratton there. Okay. And here's the reason why. I'm too cheap to buy a battery, so of course I got to jump start my mowers every time I try to use them. Now, when I turn my key over here, she goes to crank. It's real tough. Now, before I look into going and purchasing a starter, I'm going to adjust the valves. I know they have had issues with valves on these adjusting themselves. So we're going to adjust the valves and see if that takes care of the problem before I go out and actually spend money on it. It doesn't hurt and it doesn't take too very long. Okay. So I've already popped the hood off of it, and this is the mounting bracket for your hood. Okay. And I just took the 4 little bolts out here that goes into the hood itself. And on this mower, it's a pull-in. 18 horse, 42-inch cut 6-speed pull-in. The year, I don't know. I think it's been a long time since I've looked up what year it actually is, but there's your serial number there if you're curious to look up what year it actually is. Anyways, the bolts for that were 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch bolts here. Yep, that's what I used to take all the bolts out, which all 4 of them are sitting here. There was 4. The tools you're going to need for this project is 10mm wrench, a feeler gauge, which is probably the most important part of the whole deal, a T20 torque bit, or a star bit, but they're actually torque bits. And then, what size was that? 3/8. I've got a 3/8 to remove the valve cover itself. Now, I've already kind of started this process due to video problems. However, I can just show you real quick. The valve cover sits right here, and then there's, as you see where the bolts are missing, there are 4 bolts that hold this in. Okay, you pop that off. When you pull it off there, you want to take a look at the content on the inside. If you happen to see any kind of metal shavings, or if you smell gas, those are typically not that good of a sign. Fixable stuff. Metal shavings, if you see metal shavings in there, be aware that you have got some really bad stuff going on. So anyways, pulled the cover off, went ahead and took care of that. We got to figure out the difference between intake and exhaust on this one. They made it very simple for me. My exhaust port right here is on the upper side, directly in line with this valve. So in the center of the spring, okay, that is your actual valve. Then you got your spring and your retainer and another retainer. So that's my exhaust, and of course if you have an exhaust, that means your other one can only be intake. So exhaust and intake. Now, to figure out, some people state that you can find top dead center, which involves pulling a spark plug and stick an item like a screwdriver or something in there until the piston's fully out, which means that it push the screwdriver out, or whatever it is you stick it in there, as far as it possibly can. And the moment it starts to retract, then top dead center is to get that piston out towards the head as much as humanly possible. So when that screwdriver gets pushed out all the way as far as it can without returning or going back inside, then you're at top dead center. We're not doing it. There's really kind of no need for that when these have got quite a bit of tolerance to adjust the valves itself. So what I'm going to do is just turn it by hand here. Just turn the top of the crank, if I can, by hand, until one of these starts going inward. There we go. You've got exhaust going in now. Okay. So we're going to keep going until that exhaust goes all the way down, until it just barely starts to want to come back up. You'll have this little delay in between And that little delay is where you want to be. So you want that compressed down as far as you will go. Okay. Once that's compressed as far as it will possibly go, that will completely free your intake. Means it's open as far as it will, or it's closed as far as it can potentially go. Once you get to that point, then you can do the adjustment for only the intake side, which is the lower one, or the exhaust side. Whichever one is fully compressed, the other one's going to be let go completely. Okay? That simple. So now we're going to work on, get you sitting here where hopefully you can see as well as you can. Now we get our feeler gauge. So we got our feeler gauge and our T20. Okay. In the center is your locking key, pretty much, for the nut on the outside, so it doesn't come loose while the vehicle's or the motor's running. Okay. So on this one, I've attempted, or what I'm going to do is to run the 0.004, so 4 thousandths feeler gauge. I don't know if you can see that or not. 4 thousandths. There it is. Feeler gauge. Okay. That just means that this is the measurement of 4 thousandths. That's how thick this metal is. Okay. We're going to stick that in between the metal and the keeper up here. Okay. So now that that's there, in between, I don't know if you can you see that? Let me give you a better idea. Okay, so 4 thousandths I have is down in here. Okay. Now this is called a rocker, so it's in between the rocker and the top of the valve itself. Okay. Your T20 is what goes in the center there. That's your torque bit T20. And then it's a 10 millimeter for the nut on the outside. Let's see if I can try to point that out here. For your nut on the outside is 10 mil. Okay. So the 10 mil nut is what's going to adjust your tension on this. Okay. I might have to put you down a certain way. It's kind of hard to do this while you're... I can't see it that way either, can you? Okay. We'll put you back here. So now you know where my feeler gauge is. So I'm gonna... Yep, here we go. So you use your 10 mil and you just tighten her down until you start touching that feeler gauge. You don't want it super tight, but you don't want it super loose. You want it just enough where you can see I'm stuck now. I'm gonna back off just a little bit. Okay, so it's in there. There's not really a whole lot of play in between. Okay, so you want it where there's some resistance, but it doesn't need to be crazy. You don't need to yank this thing out of here. You're going to destroy your tool, and your measurement's not going to be right anyways. Okay, so now that you have that, got it in there where it's just barely got some tension on it. Okay, you can pull your gauge out now. It doesn't matter. You're going to hold the adjustment nut tight. Make sure it doesn't move on you. But you got to hold your adjustment nut tight, and you come in with your T20 and you tighten that down, and that's going to keep your 10 mil nut here from moving around on you. Okay. And you don't have to go crazy tight with that T20. Just a little bit's plenty. I mean, you want to run it down and then just give it a little, not a lot, but a whole little, just a little bit of if you understand, a little bit of okay, to get it tightened down. And then you want to go back and check it again. It doesn't hurt. You can check it as many times as you want. But check it again. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but that's a good sound. So you know it's hitting metal in there on both sides. So that one's good to go. So on this one, I ran the intake out of 0.4. Okay. So now we're going to do the same thing, the same process here. Okay. We're going to turn this motor until the intake side's completely compressed. See, here we go. Our intake's moving. Okay, now it's all the way down. It's trying to return. So you want to find that nice, happy in between. Okay. So when your intake is compressed down as far as it goes, then you can start working on the exhaust side. And it's the exact same process. Nothing's changed, nothing's different, nothing's new. Pop your T20, so your center, pop it loose, okay? Now I'm going to run my exhaust at a 0.6. Find my 0.6 in here. Or, yeah, where's my 6? There it is. There's my 6. Okay. So I'm gonna run it at 6. Some people run both of them at 0.004 or 4 thousandths. Some individuals run it, they'll run their intake out of 4 and their exhaust out of 4. Some people will run their intake out of 5 and their exhaust out of 7, or a 6, or 5/6 or whatnot. You're gonna have to find the best for you. The manual is gonna tell you it's gonna be in between this to this, which means that you've got 2 to 3 thousandths worth of tolerance there. So you've got actually quite a bit of room, unlike a regular automobile, to have work. Well, look at that. So we fit in there real nice and easy. There's a little much gap there, so we're going to go ahead and get this right. Okay, so once again we got a little bit of resistance, but nothing crazy. Okay. Okay, so now we got it where we want her. Once again, we're going to hold our wrench in place so this doesn't move and lose our gapping there. And then you're going to tighten your T20 down, and that locks this nut in place so it doesn't fall out once again. Okay, so we have that. We're going to go ahead and check it again one last time. Okay, that's nice and good. Not crazy tight, but enough to get that metal to slide down in there. Okay, not crazy tight, but enough to get it down in there. Okay, and that's that. So from there, you reverse your process. Put your valve cover back on, and really you can even check the system now if you want to see if it changed it. So we're going to give it a try. It's going to probably squirt some oil out the center here, especially if it actually fires over. But yeah, whatever. Anyways, it shouldn't, because of the way I have my throttle. I don't have my choke on, and we're going to turn our throttle all the way down to give it the hardest way possible to even fire. Or if you want, you can pull the fuse off of it. You can yank the battery and bypass all the electric whatsoever and run a hot straight to the battery, or straight to the starter, to see if it works. So let's give it a try here and see if it changes its attitude. Look at that. She cranks over nice and pretty, and I don't have to buy a starter now. Isn't that great? I just saved $300 for a starter. Awesome. All because of maybe a 5-minute job without having to take video footage of adjusting some valves. No big deal. Real nice and simple. And the valve is still a little rough, but to be honest with you, I'm going to leave it the way it is. So we're going to get her put back together now. Of course, you want to take your towel or whatever it is that you have laying around, paper towel, and you name it, doesn't matter. We're going to clean a little goo out of here. So the reason why I'm doing this, it doesn't really matter, except for the fact that when you go to put it on, you're going to get it all over this gasket down here. And if you do that, then you're not going to get a very good seal. So pretty simple here. Let's clean this. Let's give this just this gasket. The rest of it doesn't matter at all, any which way. But just this gasket here, we'll give it a good little cleaning. Just get any foreign contaminants, oil, so on. Don't use brake clean or carb clean on this. If you do, you're going to make that gasket brittle, and it could very well crack, and it will most definitely not work the next time around. Uh-oh, missing one. That's not good. Okay, we'll get them started. Choke. The rest of it I'll put back on later. You don't need to see that. But that's essentially it. The last thing I want to say is that when you go and put these on, don't go Incredible Hulk on these things, okay? They don't have to be like stupid tight. All it's got to do is just seal this little gasket in here. Nothing stupid crazy, because you could potentially warp the metal and you got to get a new one. Anyways, enjoy.